Make a Path presents Let's Talk. Alright, Deadheads, I know I missed it last month, but I want to bring it back. What is your one word to describe this issue? My one word to describe this issue would have to be relieved. We can finally put that fan theory to rest that Michonne is the new villain of the Whispers. Or I should say, digging a grave. It's 6 feet under, that theory is dead. I'm sure it'll still pop up every now and then, being that she's the secret leader. But anyhow, we can lay that to rest. So, let's talk The Walking Dead comic, issue 138, Confrontation. Alright guys, jumping right into this, starting off with Jesus kicking some ass. Hell yeah, Jesus. And no one's falling for Gregory's shit. I love that. And I do have to dislocate my arm a second and give myself a little pat on the back. Not only was I able to, I have to rewatch my predictions, but I did mention something about Gregory going into prison. That was actually a very logical way for the story to go. And look it, Gregory's in prison. And guess what? We're not surprised, but he's a complete bitch. You know what I mean? Which is probably going to lead into some kind of there's something going to happen with the redneck family. They're either going to come to Gregory, and I don't know what the security's like. I don't know if they can make their way through, but they're either going to come to Gregory, and Gregory's going to be like, listen, man, I'm going to give you up if you don't get me out of here. Or they're going to go to Maggie and be like, listen, you know, we made plans with him, but we were just a little bit pissed off. Please forgive us, and we'll drop this whole thing, and, you know what I mean, we'll be loyal. Just please. Or they could just hide and try to forget the whole thing, you know? So they really only got 3 options. I think their best option is to just go to Maggie and be like, listen, I was pissed off, I messed up. You know, please forgive me. It was all Gregory's fault. But another looming question is, could Gregory's poison still work? I mean, did he completely mess that up like Maggie said? You want to be leader, but you can't even poison somebody right. Burn. But could that poison still work? I mean, I know the effects took hold. It knocked her down. Could it make her sick later on? I mean, we obviously know that the cover of issue 140 is now Maggie finding that Carl has left. Only logical to assume that, because the doorway that Sophia was in looked just like the doorway that Maggie is in on the cover of 141. Time is moving slow, so to speak. So if Maggie's on the cover, could she possibly become sick or ill afterwards? Or is that going to be scrapped altogether? I'm okay if it's scrapped altogether. If it was just a really shitty assassination attempt, I'm okay with that. I don't need to keep, gooping story on. However, if she becomes ill a little afterwards and is bedridden a little bit and needs other people to step up, I'm okay with that story too. I think both of those options, both of those directions, it's a pretty good place to go with the story. The cliffhanger for the previous issue, 137, was Carl and Lydia getting it on. Now, a lot of us were making fun of that, joking about that, but I tell you what, that actually played a very important role in this issue, to me anyway, because Kirkman started getting me to actually love Carl and his story. I want more of it. However, with this issue, I immediately was ready to throw it all away. As soon as Carl is like, I'm out the door, I'm going to rescue her. Oh, and that's another thing I could dislocate my shoulder on. Boom, right there, the Romeo and Juliet. It's starting to build up to have a potential Romeo and Juliet style story, where he's got to go off and save the girl, and both of the families are warring with each other. Or there's a possibility for war within each other. Both of those 2 factions. Fuck, what was I talking about? But anyway, so Carl is about to go off and rescue the woman that he loves. And I was just not for that. I'm like, listen, you've been with her one day. Your family, the people you care about, your friends in the Hilltop, it's probably not as strong as Alexandria since he's been there most of the time over the past 2 years, I believe, or however many years have passed. But people you care about, Maggie, Jesus, Earl, other people we haven't seen yet, they're there and they're in danger now if you go on this mission. There's one thing that Kirkman put in there that to me is to me, it's great writing to put this in there. And that is the ending of 137. Carl and Lydia having sex. Because in the beginning of 138, after Jesus kicks some ass, we see Lydia and Carl having a very awkward conversation about how the sex was just fine. She goes on to talk about, and it's pretty graphic, about how it's usually fast. Sometimes she doesn't want it, sometimes it hurts, but it's quick and over and done with. So we could probably get the idea that it is pretty bad. And it's not just kids her age. It's probably adults, and who knows what's going on in that environment. But it doesn't seem like a healthy environment at all, especially for a little girl. That one element in the story right there, for me, made it okay for Carl to go and get the girl. She seems like a nice enough girl. Although she did say, and she is twisted in the head living that way, she did say she misses her people. So she's still attached to that world. She saw a little bit of Carl's world. So there's conflict there with the character and with the situation. And I love how that little piece of information, just that one tiny piece, her telling Carl about what goes on sexually in her tribe, and it's just a hint. We don't know the details. I don't even think from the sound of it we want the details. But just that little hint gives us a little bit of understanding of what Carl is thinking. And I don't think Lydia is a spy and she's going to go back to the camp and tell them, oh, this is their, setup, and this is how everything looks and this is how it works. Because she didn't see much, And even what she did see, she could have said what was going on the moment they left. She didn't. The first thing when she gets out there, and if you guys notice, she went to hug her mother, so she still has that childlike attachment, or that childlike need for a mother. But her mom, Alpha, just turns around, ignores it completely. Alpha wasn't having any of that. But when they get off into the woods, Lydia wasn't saying, hey, listen, this is how it's set up. She was saying, listen, I lost my mask. I'm sorry, you have to get me a new one. And Alpha is like, listen, stay in the center of us, obviously to provide camouflage for her since she doesn't have a suit. And honestly, I do kind of feel like Carl did drop the ball in this situation. I feel like Carl could have said, listen, go with your people, but sneak out and come back if you want to come back here. I feel like that was an option that was open for him. He could have, he was probably in the moment, didn't think of it, but he could have came out and said, sneak out and come back to this place. This is a better place to live. Don't make the decision right now. Go off with your people. If you do want to come back, if you don't like that life, you know where we're at. Just come back to us. And then if they ever come back, we'll just be like, we have no clue what you're talking about. She never came back here, you know what I mean? Although that would probably just start a war any fucking way, And with this issue, I'm actually really glad we're getting 2 issues this month, because although we did get a confrontation, it wasn't a bloody one. There was no battles. There was one force confronting another force. There is definitely a lot of setup in this issue, and I don't feel like we're going to be jumping right into Carl's story with the next issue, and I think that's why they gave us 2 issues. And I seen a comment before. Someone commented to me actually and said, hey, I believe they gave us 2 issues so we can get into this and jump right into Carl's journey. I don't believe that's the case at all. We might see Carl in 139, but the reason they gave us the 2 issues, I feel, is because 138 is the setup. 139, it looks like we're going to go to Alexandria, Rick and the boat, and I'm putting all my money that Michonne is on that boat. I've been saying it for a month now. So we're going to take a break from this story, and I just get the feeling like they don't want to take too long of a break, because if they did do that, it'd be 1 month here, 2 months later, then we go back to Carl. So it feels like we're going to go to Rick and Alexandria, and we're not going to come back to Carl on his journey and what's happening with Maggie finding Carl missing until issue 140. I hope I can find it. I did give a comment I posted on Twitter that summed up how I feel about the new beginning from this issue alone. This was way better than Lydia and Carl's sex. Haha. But seriously, I love that the whispers aren't just a cheap thrill. A few issues and it's done. It seems like a big and very interesting setup that may have a very deadly payoff with a gut-wrenching outcome. The characters didn't just get a new beginning. Us fans also got an amazing comic that, in my eyes, has reinvented itself. Bravo, Kirkman and crew. And I absolutely believe that's the truth. I don't believe we just got a new beginning with the story. I honestly believe that the Walking Dead comic has done something that not a lot of properties do. It reinvented itself with the new beginning, and it shows why it's an amazing comic. and it shows the power of its storytelling, from the art to the storytelling. And I know there's a lot of people out there who want the story to just start exploding, especially since we just came out of all-out war, and it was fast and in your face, and there was a lot of action, and we had 12 issues? There was 12 chapters of that. Every other month was like 2 issues a month. It was fast, it was intense, it was action-packed. And even though this story is slowing down, we're getting this build-up of the story, the characters, the environment. I love that. It's not just an issue or 2 of the Whispers. Guys, we might be with the Whispers throughout 2015. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm absolutely fine with some quarrels and shit popping off with the Whispers, and maybe later in 2016 we get a huge battle, a huge confrontation, or maybe it goes a different direction where they become allies of sorts. I personally don't think they should become allies just because of the whole sexual thing. I believe that's abuse and it shouldn't be tolerated. I don't think I don't believe sexual abuse should be tolerated in any community. And I believe that that is enough right there to just go to war with them. Eliminate them from that area. Conquer that land. Totally, wipe them out. And people like Lydia should be taken in and rehabilitated within the walls of the Hilltop. But I talked enough about the story. Before I go, I do want to talk about the images, the artwork. Charlie Adler's artwork. I do this recently. I did not do this when I first got into the comic, when I read Compendium 1, Compendium 2, and then jumped into the single issues. What I would do recently, and I'm talking with the new beginning I started this, I would read through the story. And I would actually set it down, and later on in the day I would go back and I would scroll through it and just look at the art. And I found that, and I don't know if anyone else does this, but I found I actually enjoy it a lot better reading it slower. Sometimes I get too excited, I'll burn through it fast, and I go back later and I'll slowly go through and look at each panel and the artwork. Because there's some truly magnificent artwork in here. And I honestly believe that Charlie Adler's style, and I'm sure others have a similar style. I'm not familiar with any because I'm not big into comics. This is the only comic I buy every month. But Charlie Adler's style is perfection with the Whisperers story. Especially with the Whisperers story. The way he draws them, the way they look when they're moving and traveling, it is absolutely beautiful. I would love, especially the simple panels he does right here with the Whispers just going back to wherever they're at, their tents, their villages. I would absolutely love some kind of picture or artwork, going around here. And I would hang and frame that. It doesn't even have to be the leaders or anybody in particular. This image right here, just something similar to that. It's just so creepy. I freaking love that. And to slowly get to know this creepy group and know that there's a very good likely that they're going to become future villains and future enemies of our heroes, it's absolutely awesome. This is a fantastic, fantastic issue. This is an amazing, gripping story arc. And I'm talking the entire new beginning because that was perfect slow burn setup for what we have here. And this is still slow burn. We're in slow burn right now. I'm sure when we hit the gas on this, the shit's gonna explode. One more thing before I go about the artwork. I absolutely love the tilt images. When I'm reading the comics, we get these tilt images where it's usually this double page splash. The way it tilts, we've seen this especially, I remember off the top of my head, way back when Abraham was in the back of that El Camino. That's what it was, right? And Rick was driving and you have that tilt. I'm almost positive that image looked the same. But if you look back, there's a bunch of images that just have that tilt landscape. I absolutely love that. I could take an image like this and have this as some kind of poster. You know what? If I could have something signed by Charlie Adler, I would love to have a framed piece of art like this by Charlie Adler with this tilt. Some kind of simple image like that. And I would hang and frame that with pride. I know I do talk about the story a lot, plot points and plot devices, and I talk about dialogue and this, that, and a third, and I don't talk about the art hardly enough. It is absolutely beautiful. And like I said, when you first get into this comic, it's going to be odd. It'll be awkward. It was for me. But then once you get used to it, you fall in love with it. There's an image here with Lydia where her face is in the dark. And I'm sure that's probably a technique with artists where they throw it in there and it makes it easier to draw. And I'm absolutely fine if that's the case. But I love that little image there. And I'm holding this up like I'm not going to, go through the time to impose a picture here, But I love that look where her face is completely in the shadow. And again, that might be just something easy to do for the artwork. But it's just the image. I just want to take a few minutes to go ahead and talk about that, because I don't talk about the imagery enough. And I don't believe there's anything in the letter hacks. There's no spoilers or no hints or anything like that. There is one thing I do want to talk about, and it has to relate to the artwork. When we see the whispers, somebody had mentioned it's a good trick that to tell if it's a whisper or a walker. When it's a distance shot like this, you'll see that the eyes are blacked out. Now, when it's up close and you obviously see a human eye, and the skin cut around the face, yeah, that's a very close-up shot. But for shots like this, the whispers, their eyes will be blacked out. It'll look like a skull. And that's how the artist does his difference between walkers and whispers, if anyone can't tell. Alright guys, but I did want to make sure I took 5 extra minutes, and I saved it for the end of the video on purpose, but I wanted to take some extra time and talk about the artwork, so I do apologize if the video ran a little long. It's going to take longer to upload because I'm going to add images and everything like that. I do want to edit it and put my little spin on things. But I do appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of the video. Don't forget to put your one word to describe this issue. Also, leave all your opinions about this issue, 138 of the Walking Dead comic book, in the comments section down below. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.